A 90-day truce between the U.S. and China is now underway, temporarily easing tariffs and giving markets some breathing room. Businesses are scrambling to stock up while they can, but as supply chains race to deliver, consumer demand is still shadowed by uncertainty over what happens when the clock runs out. I'm Johanna Bota, and with me today is StoneX's Chief Commodities Economist, Arlan Suderman. Welcome, Arlan. Let's start with the 90-day truce, which brought some relief, but the core of the problem remains the same. Can you explain that a little more?
It really has. And I think it's important for us to realize that we look at things from different worldviews. Mm-hmm. Here in the United States, we tend to see everything through the lens of a 4-year election cycle. Mm-hmm. Much of the rest of the world, as you know, looks at things from a much different perspective, maybe a perspective of centuries. And that's certainly true in China. And President Xi Jinping of China is looking at things from the long view. And he's not saying, how can I necessarily improve things now? It's how can I improve things? How can we reach our long-term goals? Now, they've stated that their long-term goal is to become the #1 economy and the #1 military, which they see those two as very tightly intertwined. They cannot separate the two. Mm-hmm. But he's willing to give in the near term in order to reach the long-term goal. And in the near term, his economy was suffering some pain. And so the 90-day pause allows a lot of business to be done to buy some time on his end, while on the U.S. end, it allows retailers to stock up for the Christmas holidays. And that's exactly what they're doing. But the long-term goals are still there. And I think it's important to understand that Xi Jinping has immense popularity at home right now. They control the message in China. Unlike in the United States, where media can criticize the politicians in charge, in China, they hear one message. And that has been that the United States has been the country with the unfair trade policy for years. They've been the bully in the world. Mm-hmm. And they've been told that the United States has declared war on them. Now, in World War II, we saw citizens really band together to support the righteous cause, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening in China now. They're willing to sacrifice for the cause because they see Xi Jinping as the only world leader willing to stand up to the bully. And so he has immense popularity. So he has time on his side to see if President Trump loses popularity. But in the near term, it allows some relief on China's end to buy time in order to wait, that I think it's going to take a long time to really settle the differences between the two countries.
So last week, on the first day, the tariffs were reduced to 30% on Chinese goods. We saw that TEU bookings for China to the U.S. increase by 277% week on week. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, exactly right. Retailers, they know that this may only go 90 days. Mm-hmm. And so they want to take advantage of it. They know their biggest demand of the year is the Christmas holiday shopping period. So this gives them their chance to stock up for that, even though they will cost more because there are some tariffs in place. They've just been made more manageable at this. Well, we've also seen freight rates increase about 3.5-fold, and they continue to increase as well. Many of the ships to carry the containers had been redirected to Europe, so there's a shortage of ships. So there's a real scramble in the industry right now to manufacture and to move as much product as possible from China to the United States to fill that demand. And then we'll likely see things shut down once again.
Do you think that this uncertainty about how the trade negotiations will unfold is also causing uncertainty or is starting to weigh in on consumer sentiment?
Oh, very much so, because it's no secret that the media in the United States doesn't like President Trump. Mm-hmm. So any opportunity to report something negative, they're going to. And that's just the nature of the beast, so to speak. And so they've been told that tariffs are going to create inflation, and there is an inflationary connection to tariffs, certainly so, and that products will cost more, and they've had this message told to them many, many times. And so if you look at the consumer sentiment surveys, they have dramatically increased consumer inflation expectations. That has consumers worried about keeping their jobs, how much things are going to cost in the future, and that can actually be self-fulfilling in creating a recession. The U.S. economy is 70% based on consumer spending. And so that is a real problem for President Trump. He has to, if he's going to succeed, be able to start rattling off a series of significant trade agreements with significant trading partners. We have the one with Great Britain, but that's not as significant as getting one with India, Japan, South Korea. Those are what happened. Those countries, however, know that they have 90 days. And so they're leveraging that to get as much as they can out of the negotiations, out of that 90-day period. So time is not necessarily on President Trump's side, and Xi Jinping knows that.
And lastly, and going back to the dynamics between the U.S. and China, what are some of the differences between relations during Trump's first administration and now?
During Trump 1.0, China had a strong economy. So the lead negotiator for China was a very hard-nosed negotiator, and it took 13 face-to-face meetings in order to reach an agreement. And several years to do so as well, I might add. And China values relationship in the negotiation process. They can do business with their enemy, so to speak, if they feel a mutual sense of respect in those negotiations. And President Trump did foster that. Now, as we come into Trump 2.0, one of the positives is that China replaced that hard-nosed negotiator with one who has a reputation of being easier to work with. And President Trump has a team that seems to be easier to work with as well. The first round of talks took place at Lake Geneva on the balcony overlooking the lake in the shade of a tree that was really conducive for building relationship. That's the positive. And I think that may help us move toward an agreement. But at the same time, Xi Jinping, even though China's economy is in a much weaker position right now, he sees the criticism of President Trump, and he feels like if I can simply wait this thing out, President Trump will lose the power that he currently has to initiate the tariffs, and I may not have to give up anything. And so while they have better negotiators on both sides, who have established that relationship of respect, Xi Jinping certainly still does not have the incentive to actually sign a deal at this point.
Well, thank you, Arlan. That was actually some really great insight. And thank you for watching. For more financial content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel.